Good evening. I'd like to call Property Management Committee to order. First order of business is a roll call.
Commissioner Anthony Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Irvin,
Here.
Commissioner Boyd,
Here.
Commissioner Wilson,
Here.
Commissioner Davidson,
Here.
Commissioner Dodd,
Here.
Chairman McAdoo.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is CCRC update and generations. God mercy. Connected. Where's he at? I think that's Adam, isn't it?
It is.
Adam. Oh, I forgot about that. I get it. Let's hold up since you're up here. I've left off for approval of the minutes for this meeting, and I understand the vice chairman has reviewed them, so let's hear from the vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes from the Thursday, September 22nd meeting, and I find them to be in order, so I move that we approve.
A motion to approve. We'll hear a second.
A second.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Now we're ready for CCRC update. Adam?
Commissioners, the project for the roof repair at Community Care is now complete. I have asked Mr. Tony Todd with Tennessee Roofing Solutions. He is a applicator of the Aztec product of the brochure, the packet that I have put in front of you. That packet summarizes the workings of the contract, the work that was performed, and the warranty associated with that work. He has agreed if this committee has any questions or concerns, or just wants any additional information on the product or the installation, he would be glad to come up and answer any of your questions.
Bend the rule and bring him up. Let him.
Overview of the roofing process. What he does, the process.
Okay, I got a motion. Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Good evening, Commissioners. Do you have specific questions, or how would you like for me to do this?
Well, initially, just an overview.
Okay. Community Care was a tar and gravel roof. So it had a metal deck, a concrete deck, and then it had insulation in a wood fiber and a polyiso foam board. Then it had a tar and felt membrane, then a flood coat of rock on top of that. Go back to that first photo, Adam. Back. All right. Let's. Okay, so that will show you the tar and gravel substrate that's there. So what we did with this Aztec system is called an SPF system, which stands for spray polyurethane foam. The application, so we go through with we subcontracted with a local vacuum company, and they would go through and they would dry vac the roof to remove the loose stone that was there. And then we went through and we power washed and wet vacked that roof to clean it. That's a normal process that's done once, dry, wet vac, you're done. We did it 4 times to ensure the integrity and cleanliness so we get good adhesion with the foam. And then, the pages leading up there, that shows that process for you. Went through and we indicated areas that had blistering that would require some type of repair or cutout and removal. The desk isn't far enough away, so let me put my eyeballs on. And in page 8, it shows going in and cutting out and removing some wet material of the existing roof. The blisters, how the blisters were treated. So we would rupture that blister. If there was no moisture there, we would inject the closed cell foam to encapsulate and close off that blister area and make it now a firm area. Page 9 begins the process with the foam contractor. That was a subcontracted foam contractor as well, as that's not an aspect of what we do. So what they did with the closed cell foam, they came in with a 2.8 density foam. That's a very dense foam. It's not cushiony at all. It's very dense. They attacked it in 2 layers, a base buildup layer and then the final layer. So we've got an average of 2 inches of foam there on that roof. That increased the R value for that facility by adding that to an additional R14 added on top of. The roof was conveniently divided up into 6 sections, so as they would move through a section, we could come in behind them and do our process. On page 10, you will see this isn't required in the general specifications, but we're very much not a minimalist in our approach to the system. So what you see here on the bottom of page 10, we've applied what is called a surface conditioner. We allow it to tack off and dry, and the ponding areas that you see there, the white pools, we go through and we just roll out with those to get that mopped up area so that dries out and begins. On page 11 is where we begin the base coat sealer. So this is a multi-process, multi-step, multi-layer waterproofing system. So with the base layer, we would apply it. And the first layer, you back roll it in because you want to push it into all of the crevices of the foam. And then we would apply additional layers on top of it. The base layer got 2 gallons per 100 square feet. That was applied all over the entire system. One of the concerns Adam had with me in this process and getting an understanding of how do you deal with 90-degree transitions as you go from the horizontal plane to the roof to the 90-degree plane of the drip edge. So that's done by using the base layer to encapsulate that transition and then embed cloth into that transition so as it marries the systems together. 13 continues to show base layer buildups and then beginning to apply the finish layers. The spec really only asks for 2 gallons per 100 square feet. We applied it at 2.5 gallons per square feet. Page 11, it shows further photos. Something else that we've begun to incorporate into the systems as you have roof penetrations or lines that go across the roof. If you've never been on one of these roof systems, you ever heard of snow blind? It is absolutely blinding. Unless you have sunglasses on, it's blinding. So I think it looks neater, more professional, and then plus it just calls out the different protrusions so as someone doesn't get into a trip hazard. We will paint the curbs, the exhaust units, any pipes such as your vent pipes for your plumbing, and the condensation lines that run across the roof. You can see that we've gone through and marked those out into a safety color or a contrasting color. The The roof drain, so this roof drains in two methods. One, it drains to the perimeter edging to go into gutters, and then it has two internal gutters that actually drops into the interior space of the roof, drops into the facility, and then leads out somewhere. So on page 17, the upper right, that's a roof drain area there, and so we just used a safety blue color there to denote that drain area. The last page, last two pages, that is your actual warranty that is issued to you from the manufacturer. The systems, in generality, they have 10-year, 15-year underwritings. This system, because it's the foam system, is done in 10-year increments. So they have issued you a 10-year warranty that has a renewability feature. At the end of that 10 years, we go back up there at your choice and contracting. We clean it, make up any waterproofing touch-ups that need to be done, and then we apply more product, and they reissue you another 10-year warranty. It's done in 10-year increments. A truly sustainable system. So conventional systems, what happens? You get a roof layer. You get a second generation roof layer, so now you're at 2. Codes requires you to remove those and go back to the original substrate. All of those layers go into the landfill. This roof is never going to go into the landfill. It is truly sustainable. You can renew it, renew it, renew it, and renew it.
How does it do with hail? With hail?
It's depends upon the size of hail, but it is susceptible to hail damage. So what happens in that occurrence? You get a hail damage that comes through, and it does happen to damage it. It's very easily, you go through, you target that area, you cut that area out, refoam and reply, and you're back to a monolithic, seamless system that is standing up and still under warranty.
How many buildings in the county already have this?
So you guys have done 6 of this category. We've done 5 of those 6. The only one we haven't done is the courthouse. And we didn't do the courthouse because it was out of our season.
So what's the one that's been on the longest period of time?
Longest period of time is the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office.
How
It's
long?
3 years old. Yeah.
Sounds good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Just to pick up on y'all have a rate for the warranty, the extended warranties, don't you? Do you already have a price per square foot, or as I recall some previous visits, I thought we talked about that?
Yeah, we have projections is what we have. So let's turn those into real numbers. This facility here, to go with the conventional means, it was roughly $800,000 for 20 years of warranty. So this system cost the first 10 years $206,000. At the end of that 10-year period, the next 10 years, in today's dollars roughly, is $50,000. So you're at $260,000 in a 20-year period versus $800,000 for that same 20-year period.
I remember that renewal was pretty reasonable in the scheme of things that helped make it seem to justify it when we've done this before. So thanks, Tony.
And the reason is because you do all of the labor-intensive work up front. Coming back in for the renewal phase is really touch up, clean, and add new finish to it.
Any environmental issues? I mean, I've heard of closed cell foam and open cell foam and all that, but have there been any environmental issues with mold, for example, and things along those lines under, getting between the roof layers?
No. I can speak to our application, and we've never had those underlying issues.
How long have you been doing Aztec?
I became an approved contractor in 2010. I've been studying coding since 2000.
So 12 years or so, in your experience with Aztec, how long had Aztec, this same product, exist prior to you getting involved with your company?
Aztec dates back to the 70s or 80s, I think.
It's not a new flash in the pan.
It's not new to the market segment by any means. It dates back many decades. It's the technologies and improvement in those raw goods and technologies that's now made it a viable candidate in the system, because there was just a lot of junk in the bucket out there.
Other questions? Commissioner?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just reading over the renewable warranty, and it says it's during the last 6 months of the term is when, if we do the renewing the finish coat, we can renew it. Is that something you reach out to us about, or is that our responsibility to put on the calendar that in 9 years and 6 months we have to reach out to you to renew it? We wouldn't want to miss the opportunity for that. Do you reach out to us, or is it our responsibility to get that renewed?
I'm doing my job properly. I'm reaching out to you. Yes. So what's the process? The process is a line card, a warranty line card reminder will be sent out, and then a follow-up phone call will be made.
Okay, and Chairman, do we have a process? I mean, obviously, commission terms change over, and we would hate to miss an opportunity, and it's very specific that in that 6 months we have to do it. So that's what I was asking. Just, I'm not sure who notes that, but that seems very important.
Adam, probably could answer that question. Also, I was reminded that anything that go through purchasing, that we do have a file for the warranties and all that good information. And also, before Adam took over being Mankin, I remember I had a great file, a great system that he kept up with the warranties on the computer system.
If I may,
Any other questions?
if I may I,
Go ahead.
Commissioner Dodd, Chairman Dodd, may I expand upon that question? So, that is the letter of the law, the 6 months. That is not the marketplace reality. Let's say you go 10 months, 10 years and 6 months. You still have a candidate for renewability, and it still can be renewed. The advantageous thing to that is you catch it within that capsulated period of time that reduces the potentiality should you push it to year 11 or year 12. You're going to lose warranty coverage in that gap period, but you also bring in the potential of having to do more extensive work to touch up and bring it back to the condition to put cover over top of. So in the event you went beyond, let's say year 11, year 12, it could still be a candidate to renew and just has to be surveyed and go through the process to renew it again. It doesn't exclude you from any possibility of renewal.
Mr. Chairman, what
Go ahead.
happens to the warranty if y'all were to go out of business or just change product lines, whatever?
As an entity,
Is it with an entity, or how is it set up?
so your warranty is issued to you just like every other roofing manufacturer out there. It's their warranty. I'm an authorized, certified, and approved contractor for their system,
For
for Aztec.
Okay.
Should I go out of business, I retire, decide to dissolve, or for whatever reason, they would then put in place the next authorized contractor to pick up where we left off and carry forth business as usual.
And if Aztec were to have some challenges or go out of business?
That is part of free market. Would there be an alternative to something else adhering to? Yes, it would be.
Thank you.
Other questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order now. And we'll bring Adam back up here.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Call the meeting back to order. Call Adam back. Okay, next on the agenda, 20 North update, Adam.
So this update is two-part. We touched at last month's meeting regarding some of the HVAC climate control issues that we were experiencing. We're continuing to monitor that, those humidity levels throughout the building and the plenums. Everything thus far is continuing to trend in the right direction, and I have, thankfully, no issues to report at this time. The second part of, I do not, is the window replacement. This is something that has been in the works for over a year now. When I came in, we were in the process of bidding this project out and getting information on products and cost comparisons. We ended up going with the Pella. Pella contractors are actually doing this install. It has been going extremely well. All safety precautions are in place. Middle Tennessee Electric has been great working with us regarding the power lines. On the College Street side, those lines had to be de-energized. So if everything, right now, we've got about 70% of those windows that have been replaced. The paint and finish contractor is actually working with the Pella contractor at the same time. So as the windows are replaced, they're being sealed and painted at the same time, and that will help ensure that we don't have any potential water issues during the install. Like I said, we're at about 70%. They should finish the College Street side, which is the rear of the building. They hope to finish that install tomorrow, and possibly within the next 2 weeks we can wrap this job up. So, but like I said, everything has been going good. I have no complaints, and to my knowledge, our office hasn't received any. And that completes my report on 20 North window replacement.
Any questions? Time 20 North, we had an issue with roof leaking and servals being rained on. And give me an update on that, on the servers, the leakage. We were going to move those servers to another room.
Commissioner, that server was moved within 2 weeks of us finding that leak and finding another location. Worked with OIT and Cody's office, and we had that server moved and into its new location, and all the equipment that is. There were other. Cody, can you speak to the other items that were, there were other items in that mechanical room that we were also able to move out?
Yeah, so there were, inside of that was not only the switches, which connects everything to the network, but there's also the physical doors, the door lock system, the cameras all ran back to that room. So that room basically housed everything that was a computerized thing, right? So all the things that belonged to us that was on the first floor ran back to that room. So we had to move all of them, worked with maintenance. It was great. We kind of found what I think was kind of the ideal solution. We were blessed that the solution was as obvious, I guess, as we found it. Next month, I will be bringing the total bill for that. And I think it comes here, or does it go straight to, I'll figure that out, but
Probably go to
we're probably both, right? So that you guys will see that number. It's roughly $20,000, roughly, which it could have been a lot more. We actually didn't have to rerun any drops. We basically just took the wires, threw them over this wall, bored a hole over here and put them down over here. So we didn't, it could have been 4 or 5 times that. So we dodged a bullet. I really feel good about that. Appreciate Adam's folks helping us with that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, any questions on it?
Quick question.
Commissioner Irvin?
Is after that situation you just described, has thought been given to creating a redundancy or anything along those lines, or a more secure situation?
Well, so typically, it really isn't something you have to worry about. These switches can sit in a room, and if nobody touches them, they can run for a long, long time. The thing that we did learn is we are trying to play as big of a role as early as we can with any construction project, renovation, new construction, so that we can participate in some of these conversations before pipes get laid or before space gets claimed or walls get put up, all that stuff, before conduit gets put into the building. We're really trying to be at the table when those the initial conversations are happening, so that we can play a role and try to prevent some of these things. If that happens, we should never be having to fix something. We should just do it the right way first. And I hope that's not too pointed, but that's the lesson we learned from this.
Any other questions? Proceed on with one-stop update. I thought you discussed that. Got some,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
an additional thing with 20 North.
got some addition, okay.
So to remind you guys on item 4 of the agenda, thank you committee, thank you Chairman. To remind you guys, Steve Carr came forward. He made a presentation to this body a few months ago with the proposal to put an antenna, a cellular antenna on top of the JC. So there's some new faces in this room. So I'm going to remind you a little bit about that. So that was a request. There were some concerns with the sheriff's office, with maintenance, and even from my idea with some security, from my side with some security issues. So this body decided to decline that offer, but then directed Mr. Carr to take a look at 20 North as a possible alternative. So if it's all right with you guys, I'd like him to come up and basically continue that conversation.
Motion to suspend the rule, let him come up.
Motion, suspend the rules.
Motion, second. Got a second. All those in favor?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Carr. I represent T-Mobile. T-Mobile has been in search to try and improve cell phone coverage in the downtown area for quite some time. We looked at the Justice Center a couple months ago, presented that to this board. I know there are some new faces, and the thoughts were because of security issues, because anytime we put antennas on a rooftop, we need 24/7 access. If there's a problem with one of our antennas, we need to go up and have access to be able to fix the antenna and sustain the network. So during that discussion a couple months ago, they asked me to investigate the 20 North building. So I stayed overnight, got some information on the rooftop, sent it back to my radio frequency engineers. They analyzed that rooftop at the elevations where our antennas would be, came back to me and said it would work with the network to improve the network downtown. What we are asking is to proceed forward to the second step of the process, which is to begin discussions about the lease agreement with the entity who will sign the agreement, and then also put together some engineering drawings and design work for you all to review as well, so that you know where our antennas would be, what it will look like. There's some other things that we would have to do in order to prepare a case for our zoning. So if it gets by this board, we would then go through the Planning Commission process to seek approval to allow these antennas to exist on that said rooftop. We would enter into a long-term lease agreement with the county for that location. And I'm here to answer any specific questions you might have, if you do.
How long a lease?
It's a 30-year lease.
Approximately, what's the going rate for?
I believe we submitted an offer of $2,000 a month with rental increases that occur annually.
30 years, 20,000 a month?
No, $2,000 a month.
2,000 a month for 30 years with an escalator of?
I think it was 2% annual.
Question more for, are there security concerns with 20 North?
Security concerns with the JC were both the sheriff and OIT. The security concerns here are much smaller because we could grant access, because of the way the building's designed, we could grant access, but they would still have access to the 5th floor, which is one of the 2 floors that OIT maintains. We discussed this, and the solution, the best solution that I could come up with, or that we could come up with, would be we would have to escort them whenever they, so if there was a problem, they would call our, we have a 24-hour on-call person, so they would call our on-call tech. The tech would come down and meet them, or I would, depending on circumstances probably, and then we would just walk with them up to the building. They'd go into the maintenance room on the 5th floor. They'd climb the ladder, pop the hatch to the roof, go address whatever they've got to address, and then they'd come back down and we'd escort them out. So I don't think that's an ideal situation, but it may be the best we can get, that will cause a slight delay is the fact we've got to get our guy, but our guy may beat their guy here, depending on how well they notify us. But yeah, so that's the headache in my world, is it creates an opportunity that I've got to call an employee or myself has to show up random, because I'm sure this doesn't break at like 8 o'clock in the Monday morning. This is more of a 2 o'clock Saturday morning kind of breakage. So,
Has the county done any analysis on the market value of a lease along these lines?
I haven't. I think that would probably be more of an Adam question. But my understanding, please correct me if you're wrong, this one this is kind of the head nod to, okay, start working with engineers, get drawings, figure out what how many holes we're going to have to put in the membrane. Adam talking about warranties. Adam gets to go research the warranty and figure out what's the impact on the warranty going to be, and that's so. This isn't an approval to go do it. It's the approval to just go to the next step and start actually putting some of those hard numbers together. And I think I also heard him say he's got to appear before Murfreesboro zoning, and they have to approve the look, the aesthetic of it. So,
how good is cell service now? I don't know.
I wouldn't be here if it was good.
So
My T-Mobile down here, it's embarrassingly bad.
That's why I'm here.
So at this point, the county, nobody's spent any money except y'all.
And nobody spent any money. He's up here so we can go to the second phase, that's it. So don't get any impression that we need rate increases, rate checks, or whatever. We just want Adam to be able to go to the next step, bring us a plan up here that we can look at on 20 North. To update you, we discussed this several months ago. We started out with the judicial building. And the judicial building was ruled out because of security going in the building. So IT is telling us, Adam is telling us that this would be a less secured area for him to go in there and check if he have to. So we hadn't spent any money, and nobody done anything on it. And we're moving to the second phase. And as soon as they bring us back a plan, working with Adam, we'll proceed on with discussion.
Fair enough.
Any other questions? I think Commissioner Johnson had his hand up.
So the plan you're talking about is the engineering and design plan?
That's correct. I will bring my engineer on site. We will visit the building, also ask for some drawings of the building to design it so it is structurally sound and it maintains the integrity of your building. And normally, a lot of times what we do is if there is a current warranty on the said roof, we have the person who holds that warranty do any of the roof items associated with it. We wouldn't want to affect any of the warranties. So we do this all across the country, secure buildings all across the country, and never have any issues.
Other questions? Johnson, you got another question? About the other commissioners? Okay, I guess we really would need a motion to proceed on with this project. So right now, it'd be a good time to entertain a motion.
I may be lacking on the wording, but I'm sure I am, but somebody can help me out with it. But I would move that Adam would be able to move on to the next step, which would be the engineering and design plan.
Work with Adam,
Yes, I so move.
design plan. You hear the motion, do I hear a second? Discussion? Commissioner
Mr.
Dodd?
Chairman, just to reiterate, that's still no obligation to this, your due diligence, and we have no obligation to accept your lease agreement with the efforts you're about to make on the second.
That is correct, but I would hope that you would.
So this is a good faith step. I don't know if that has to be in the motion. I don't know. You might suggest.
Good with adding that.
I don't know what the wording could be.
Well, we could just make a motion to, go ahead. Okay. Move to proceed to the design phase and emphasize there's no obligation to the county or any other entity at this point, that it remains non-binding. It is, completely at both parties' option, whether to continue or not, and to allow the county as well to do its due diligence to confirm the market analysis with respect to the terms and conditions of the proposed lease. Something along those lines, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to add one more thing to it, if possible, because if Murfreesboro zoning, Murfreesboro Planning Commission do not approve it, we can't move on up anyway. So I would like to add that. Maybe you can go ahead and when you get the plans together to start discussion with Murfreesboro Planning and Zoning about your intention, of putting the antennas on top of our building.
Yeah, and
I thought I was understanding that that's what he was going to do, is that was part of this engineering and design, was to go to Murfreesboro.
and we would just make that subject to.
I have one comment.
When I'm putting up a brand-new tower, 190 feet tall, and say you're the county that I'm doing this transaction with, I would not go to a public hearing unless I had a signed lease with you, because I want you to be my partner in my pursuit of allowing this to take place. So a lot of times when you get into the zoning environment, you kind of want to know that you as leadership are on board with this through the transaction of signing a lease agreement with us. And it puts us in a situation of we're here for the same goal. I've had situations, I'm just going to speak candid, where I had a school corporation where I was going to take down a light standard at a football field, replace it with my pole that would support my antennas and my lights, and I asked the school corporation to sign my lease agreement. Well, when you get to the zoning hearing, it gets a little hot. People in the community didn't want the facility, so they ended up not doing the deal. So they weren't acting as a team in that situation. And that's kind of one of the things we like to do. Have we done it differently? I wouldn't suspect we would have a lot of outcry when I'm putting antennas on an existing structure. I'm not putting up a 190-foot monopole. And that's kind of what the zoning environments across the country are wanting to see, because they want to minimize tower proliferation. Don't want to see another pole in the air. Using these existing structures of height is a good thing. And it is also providing needed improvement for our network in this downtown core area, which with the student population here, T-Mobile has a lot of customer bases here that are having problems using their systems. And we view it as a life safety issue as well for the T-Mobile customers.
How tall is the building and how far above the building does your tower?
10 feet above and part of Murfreesboro zoning.
I'm sorry, can you repeat it again?
10 feet above the roof line and part of Murfreesboro's zoning requirements. I have to stealth the antennas through screening, and that's all part of my design that I'm going to do that I'll put before you all so that you all can look at it and say, yep, we're on board with this. And then I would take it to the zoning process, because they're pretty, it's one of the reasons why we looked at the Justice Center, because there's a facade that is around that building that allowed us to put the antennas behind there with stealthy material that allows our frequency to pass through it. So,
Did you look at the new garage? The new garage over by Judicial Center?
yeah, we needed to be, we also looked at the tower that is currently over at the, I think it's the highway department or something over here. And it's not sturdy enough to support our equipment. It failed over 200%, so it wouldn't hold us. So that's why we went to the Justice Center, and then you all said 20 North Building, and we reviewed that, and they said it would meet their needs.
Chairman,
Commissioner Johnson?
when I was lingering, when you asked me if I had another question, but I had lost it, but I found it because
Okay.
alluded to that. My question was,
When do you start getting money? Every month? As soon as we start construction.
writing up the lease and agreeing to it?
Oh, I've already sent you guys a draft lease when I think we looked at the Justice Center. And that's when the discussion, they were reviewing through the lease and they saw my 24/7 access, and that's what brought up the security issues. And that's one of the things but they have a draft lease right now.
Just a draft
It's
right
just a
now.
draft, yes.
Okay.
I need to speak up on that. Had a change of administration, and that draft lease may be lost in the cracks. So can you send us another draft lease?
Yes, I can.
When will our attorneys be looking at that draft lease or lease draft?
Hopefully before the next meeting.
I understand you to say you would not go to,
That's what we prefer to do, knowing that we are all partners in this together. But I'll have drawings and everything that you all will see before I even step foot in a public hearing to get approved. So you will be seeing all this stuff on the front end, saying yes, no, or you might come back and say, you know what, we don't want to do it. So,
And you
but
don't
we
wanna
would at
be-
least want to have a certain understanding that there's definite interest amongst this board to entertain this, to solve this problem of coverage in downtown.
don't want to be hung out to dry.
Yeah.
Okay, What's your time frame on it? What's your time frame?
Well, when I do my engineering, it probably takes me anywhere from 45 to 60 days to put a set of drawings together.
So you'll be coming back before us within 60 days?
You probably would put me at the first of the year, which is a little over 60. Well, not really.
And at that point, you'd have drawings, draft lease, all the specs basically outlined.
Yeah. I'm going to send you guys another draft lease anyways. I mean, it's pretty standard boilerplate language. We put these agreements together so people sign them, not to prevent them from being signed.
Mr. Chairman, so our motion, basically, we're just moving it forward to the next phase of going to planning and engineering. And Cody, you don't have any issues that you've expressed about security issues. You're comfortable with the plan moving forward. As far as your role in the building and needing access, you feel comfortable with them using the building?
That's correct, sir.
That's all I need to know.
That's correct.
Okay. We're just moving it forward to planning to the next step. Those guys, if they don't like it, they can kill it.
Right.
We have a clarification on the motion, please.
All right, now this is what I have, and if we need to take anything out, let me know. Motion to allow Steve Carr with T-Mobile to move forward with the engineering and design plans for an antenna on top of the 20 North building with no obligational commitment from Rutherford County.
Anybody got any questions, concern about the motion? If not, I'd entertain a call for the question.
Yes, call for the question.
Question been called for. Any discussion on the call for the question? Not, we understand the motion. So, I think we should have a roll call.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Davidson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Chairman McAdoo.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Motion, committee back in session and ask Adam to move to the next item on the agenda, one-stop update.
Blackman One Stop, this project continues to track well, with the exception of the fascia boards. The contractor was hoping that they would have been in last week. They didn't show up. They're still on back order, so the roof remains at 90%. Contractor is continuing to run sewer line this week. He estimates to complete that and have it tied in by the end of this week. The water main and the backflow have been installed. The HVAC duct insulation is complete. The framing, mechanical, the electrical rough-in is all complete now, and it's scheduled to be inspected tomorrow. The contractor has started site grading and prepping for site concrete. The window frames were delivered this week. The window installation is set to begin next week. 50% completion on the exterior stone, and the contractor has begun to rough in the water and electric for the DMV this week. And that completes my report on One Stop.
Any questions on one-stop? You commissioners, do you understand the layout and what we're doing at One Stop, or do you need more detailed information on One Stop, or?
Mr. Chairman, last month we had mentioned taking a tour of these ongoing projects. I don't know if anyone got back with you and let you know what dates they could go, but One Stop would be a good one to all on the same page and know.
Same, one in North, One Stop,
Goldstein Building.
Goldstein building that we discussed would be ideal for, especially the new commissioners. Sure. Nobody got back with me on a time frame, but we did discuss, time frame was given one commissioner maybe 2 hours before the committee meeting. 2 hours before the committee meeting. In the past, we have done tours before the committee meeting. Do I have any commissioner like to voice their opinion on that?
Chairman.
Commissioner Johnson?
Seems like we could do 20 North and the Goldstein Building, you know, within the next meeting. Hours early, tour both those since they're walking distance.
Sounds good. I think that's what we discussed, wasn't it? That sounds good. Any question, concern about the 2 hour?
I think that's Thanksgiving Day, isn't it, or something?
I didn't hear you talk up.
Oh, I think that's Thanksgiving Day, isn't it?
No, we're changing the date. Date we changed on the agenda. Look at the
Okay.
agenda. Down at item 9, we will be changing that meeting date. But the idea of having it 2 hours prior to the meeting is what we're discussing right now. Do we have any issues with that?
Sounds good.
Right? Okay. Next on the agenda, public health and safety buildings update.
Rockville, of course, that was our first public health and safety building that we started, so it's obviously further along. The metal decking and the roof sheathing is complete. The roof is ongoing. Additional sitecrete has been completed. They're working on the walls. That picture doesn't do it justice, but the stone is beautiful. And Horton Utilities, we touched on that last week. That is completed, so we're tied in. The gas is tied in. They've started working on the interior walls now. There's another good look. There's your decking. Interior walls. That completes the report on Rockville. We can move on to Kittrell. This project is tracking well. It's on schedule. CMU walls are ongoing. The contractor is forming the mezzanine slab this week. He anticipates to pour the mezzanine slab next week. Contractor anticipates completion of the CMU walls and to start metal stud framing within the next 2 to 3 weeks. He estimates to begin setting metal trusses within 4 weeks. That completes my report on Kittrell. After speaking with Mike Hughes, there are no new updates at this time for the Las Casas or the Walter Hill sites.
Any questions on our public buildings? Want to ask at this time? complete the safety buildings, we would have 5, is that correct? 6. Did we get the approval over on Amberville for the location, or?
Commissioner, I'm under the understanding that all 6 were approved to move forward.
Any discussion on the public safety building? If not, next thing on the agenda is, you see, I think that's it for you, isn't it, Adam? Got one
No.
more thing?
I can speak. You have to skip over item 7.
Yeah, we're gonna skip that one.
So are we going to 8?
One day. Commissioners, we're skipping 7, which is naming county buildings update. One reason the mayor's not here tonight, and we're still waiting on some information to come in before we can present it to this committee. So they're still working on that. And as soon as we package on that, we will bring it back to that committee. Okay, 8, courthouse use form change.
So, Commissioners, we're bringing something, we want to bring something forth to you tonight. The courthouse use form, the request for use form, it's something that we're looking to revise, and something that something that needs to be done and should have been done for some time. I'm going to hit some high spots just to kind of catch you up from the past couple of years. But this facility, this courthouse, just went through a major renovation, right under $1.2 million renovation. It consisted of the roof, which we've already touched on, lighting, HVAC, paint, grounds, etc. Also, the addition of the historical museum and the renovation to break rooms and the entire 3rd floor. Growth in event planning has been something that we've had some issues with here at this facility. Some of our events, the majority of those events have doubled in size since they originally were formed. We have a very hard time policing these events as they have gotten larger. So with that being said, we are starting to see more and more abuse, more neglect of our facilities. And just to give you a few examples, broken partition doors in bathrooms, broken locks, broken toilets, handles, hand towel dispensers that are pulled off of walls, clogged and flooded toilets. And I want to touch on that. The main line going to the building, to the city, during the renovation, that line was replaced. But the plumbing that's in the floors is residential plumbing, and it has some significant age to it. And it is a residential system, and it's not a commercial system, and this building wasn't designed for commercial use. With that being said, clogged and flooded toilets, not designed for that volume and that demand. The city of Murfreesboro has come out and on Mondays after 2 of our events just within the last year, and they've had to clean out the main line at the road because this entire building was backed up. So basically, any other damage that I can touch on would be to the grounds and the lighting. And I left that separate because the grounds and the lighting are not interior. They're exterior, and it's going to be limited to how we can address that. But what we can address moving forward is the interior of our building and the structure. And lastly, something that I thought was important to bring up is that from a cost and a budget and a planning standpoint, it's hard to account for policing these events and the repairs that we have to make. It has started to be after every event. So with that being said, Mr. Eric has something he would like to say.
So this problem was brought to me, I believe, on Tuesday, and I went and found the current policy that we have that was fairly well written, but there was another issue that Mr. Dodd didn't speak about, and that is some of these people, the vendors, are not removing their items from the courthouse lawns in what we would think would be a timely manner. I don't know if it's still there or not, but there's been a cooler of some sorts that has been sitting out here for 3 days at least. And the employees, a lot of employees park here in their circle. And so to try to address that, I took the liberty to go ahead and make a proposal of changes to the current policy. It should be in your packets. The changes are really minimal. You'll see that there's a couple of different places I kind of had to say the same thing, but really what we want to do is, and this would not be retroactive to any applicant who has already been approved. There are several that are approved throughout the remainder of this year, and in reality, we would be looking at starting this January 1. But after January 1, we would no longer allow the restroom facilities of this building to be used by any applicant who is using the grounds for their event. And that's for the main reasons that Mr. Dodd just spoke about. In addition to that, what I've been told is that already some of the larger events are bringing their own porta potties and that kind of thing anyways. So it's really not much of a huge change from most people who are already using the grounds, but we just want to make it for everybody. The other thing is we would request and put into the requirements that all items be removed by 7 a.m. the day after the event. That being, if it's a Sunday event, if everything is removed by 7, then employees can come in and park in the inner circle. If it's a Saturday event, then it's all removed by Sunday morning. Any other event or that kind of thing, we could help plan for having additional events if there was a timeline or a deadline maybe of when those items had to be removed. So essentially that's all we're doing. We're closing the restroom facilities and we're saying anything that you brought in as a vendor has to be removed by 7 a.m. the day after your event. I'm not married to this proposal that I put forth. If any of you have a better way or a different thing that you would like to say, I just wanted to give you guys something to look at so that you could kind of see what we were shooting for.
Is it basically from the sidewalk in, from the square, is it the sidewalk in that we're talking about?
Yes, it's the inner circle.
The inner circle.
The parking lot's not in the grounds, or is the parking lot?
Yeah, it would include, when you pull into the inner circle, it's going to be all of that parking area because the outer circle is city.
Okay. And then, is there a provision, I haven't had a chance to study it, if there were to be violations, is there a provision that says whoever the sponsor was picks up the cost? And do we have a kind of a bond or something along those lines?
There's an insurance requirement that was already in the document prior to me even looking at it. And what we have went with is that if you don't follow the rules, then you may not get your application approved in the future.
And that's been listed, that's currently listed anyway within it. The only change is no restroom usage across the board of the historic courthouse, and then that all of equipment, supplies have to be removed from the premises by 7 a.m. of the following day of the event.
There are cleanup requirements and they pay for all of it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was already in the policy
Right.
anyways.
Commissioner Wilson?
Actually, Vice Chairman Anthony Johnson had a really good suggestion. I think it was last month's meeting on Thursday. He brought up load-in times. I think that's an interesting one. When we came to this meeting last month, they had already blockaded off parking inside the inner circle, and I know I had to drive around for about 10 minutes to find parking to make it to this meeting on time. And so maybe in the event that we have business going on a 5:30 meeting, maybe there's a load-in time. I mean, just saying we couldn't find parking outside. That was the only issue was, whenever we're doing business. It was, I think it was last Thursday, the last meeting we had. Yeah.
The applications are supposed to state the time of when they're coming in. So that's supposed to already be there. This is the rules, so that the application, when they request that they want to use the grounds, they're supposed to put the date and time of when they want to use it.
I guess that would be my only suggestion would be is to make sure there's not any actual business going on and just outside. Because, we're not here every day. But if there was, they would load in just after we're done with business.
Application is on your iPad.
I think the rules are two to 3 pages.
After the rules, there's
Yeah, it's on the iPad.
there's an app.
And all of those requests come into the mayor's office, and all of those are looked at individually to be approved. So, if there's something else going on or something, then they can always be modified or denied.
I would like to see the rules changed if it's not already, I can't find it on here, I'm sorry. But if it's not already in the rules to have the setup and loading after the closing of the courthouse, this courthouse, that would cover anybody's meetings. Because they set up the night before, but they closed off, but they didn't set up anything. So all it did was create a problem for parking.
That's because the Thursday, the reason why some events request the Thursday night is because the setup starts sometimes at 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning. So what they're trying to do is we're trying to police the cars that are going to be left in the inner circle and parked overnight that we can't move because it's public parking. So that's where the Thursday night comes in at, is that event planner will request that. And under our current, that's why we're here, but under our, these current policies, it's been provided.
So we allow overnight parking in the inner circle?
We can't police that. It's public parking. Yeah, so that's what starts the Thursdays. What I'm trying to say, that the reason why they do that on Thursdays is for that setup on Friday morning. They're trying to keep the traffic, the inner circle from all the restaurants and different businesses around the square. We constantly have cars that are left in the inner circle overnight that they come in their vehicles, but they don't leave in their vehicles.
What time do you put the poles up on the night before?
Most of the time, those barricades are put up right around 4 p.m. That's average, is around 4 p.m. That's our standard time.
I know this sounds silly. I'm going to just throw this out there. Put up the barricades, and for the very few people that have to come to that meeting, have someone move it and let you in like you're going to a football game and park it in the VIP section. Just to let us just so we can make it to meetings on time if we can't find parking around. I mean, that would be a solution where they can barricade off. Someone just move it, let us park, and then when we leave, they're done. Because you're trying to keep people that want to go around and eat at night and don't go home and all that, leave their car. I know, I get it.
Commissioner Boyd?
We haven't got reserved parking, and we can park anywhere. And these barricades he's explained what the barricades are for these people to come in and set up. I don't see the issue. I really don't.
I'll ask the HR director for her input.
So Adam's touched on it, but I'll give you an example. So in a few weeks, we're going to be setting up for the Christmas tree lighting event that takes place on the square. So Thursday night, when everybody leaves from work, like at 4:30, they'll block off where nobody can come in to park. And then after everybody's out of the inner circle, they'll block it off. That will be on Thursday night. Now, granted, you may or may not be in a meeting that night, but because Friday, they set up the stage Friday morning. So some of the events, Friday Night Lives, Jazz Fest, there's a number of events where they'll set up the day before in order to have the event. So that's where the timeline of being able to shut it down to where the inner circle's available to other people to park, we wouldn't be able to do, if that makes sense.
So you guys support blocking it at 4. Logistically, that works for y'all. We just need to develop extra time to find a parking spot. What we may not know till we get here is blocked. So you're suggesting we need to put up with that?
No,
Which
that's
I
not
will.
what-
I'll be glad to. I like you. It makes sense that you block it at 4, or it'll get chaotic.
It just may be that events, like most of the county events and the Main Street event, like most county events that we would have would be on a weekend anyway, so that would be a Thursday night to Friday morning block off. But for the application process, which would be rare that we would have an event on a Thursday, during the week, most of the events are going to take place on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday type event. So it would be rare for it to be blocked off. Well, it would be blocked off on a Thursday, yes. So to answer your questions, I just almost was stupid. Sorry about that. I was thinking for the Friday. So the reason why, if we didn't block it off early, by the time all the restaurant crowds got in after work, then Adam's team would have to be coming in all hours to sit there and wait until everybody left. So kind of that's where the 4 o'clock, 4:30 starts, is so that it can be blocked off and nobody else enter, and then after everybody leaves. So I guess for lack of, maybe that's not a good answer, but that's just how we've always done it. That doesn't mean it's right. That's just how we've always done it, so.
Now, well, why can't we look at this? At our previous meeting, each meeting that we have, that events that are going to take place same day as our next meeting, we can go ahead and make it known to this committee. In other words, you'll know at the next meeting that they're going to set up for an event. So therefore, I need to get here early. I need to make other arrangements, somebody drop me off and for this meeting. So I'm thinking that if we bring this information up a meeting ahead of this event, then you'll know. I think the main thing they're looking at, they need to know. We need to know, because if we come up here at our regular meeting time of 5:30, and we say we get here at 5 o'clock, and boom, it's all blocked off, and we didn't know it. If we know it, then we may want to get here at 4:30 or make some other arrangements to come to this meeting. I think that would be the simplest way, and maybe we could try that and see if that doesn't work. Any input to that?
What you just said, or leaving it like it is, it was just a question. But now I am confused, because we said we can't block off the public parking, but that's what we're talking about. So we are blocking it off. If we couldn't stop overnight parking, well, stopping overnight parking when you put those barricades up, so it is public parking, but it's regulated by the county because it's the inner circle.
My understanding that from the sidewalk in, that is county property. And so, yes, we are controlling who enters and who exits from that property as best that we can. And so when someone has put in an application and followed the rules, then we are allowing them to use that space to do their events, whether that be the Christmas tree lighting or, United Way chili cook-off. And so we are controlling the access to that for those events. But it is open the majority of the time as public parking. There's no assigned, I don't have a parking spot, he doesn't have a parking spot. Unfortunately, y'all guys don't have a parking spot. So it is public parking, first come, first serve on a majority of the days.
Maybe we can try that with the information, bringing it up a month ahead of time and see how that works. On this application, it's something I would like to see. There's a deposit fee. Because, I don't know the amount of this deposit fee. Looking at,
I believe the fee is $250.
may need to look at raising it higher. Because if they do not meet the curfew for taking down their equipment and all this good stuff, we may have to hire somebody to get it done. And let's look at that deposit fee and see would that be feasible. If we had to get a crew in here to take down tents, move equipment or whatnot, and bring that back.
Will do.
Other discussion on our rules? Have this ready for us at the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, November meeting date. One date that we were looking at on the calendar that do not have any conflict with any other committee meeting is November the 30th. 30th at 5:30 p.m.
Chairman.
November the 30th, 5:30 p.m.
Are we going to do the tour that day?
Yes, sir, we'll probably will. We'll be able to do the tour. We'll set it up 2 hours early.
So it'll be 3:30. 3:30 on November 30th.
Yeah, 3:30. I said 5:30, but it'll be 3:30.
I could do the 30th. I'm good for the 30th.
That's satisfactory to everyone? Let that be our November meeting date, November the 30th at 3:30 p.m. And we will meet here at 3:30 p.m. Then we'll proceed up on our tour, and then we'll return back here at 5:30 p.m. to proceed in our meeting.
There will be department heads or someone to actually
Oh, yes.
in the buildings.
Yeah, we'll have somebody here to tour, take them. Okay, on the other business. Have anything you want to discuss? No, thank you. Well, on your building, one thing, well, go ahead if you got something to bring up. Okay, I would like to bring up one thing that we discussed, and we've been discussing it in the past on your building. If we can go up 3 stories, or if we can't. So I would like to put that to rest by getting an engineer or somebody to look at that building and let us know specifically if we can go up 3 stories on that building. When the building was built, it was built with the idea that we could, in the future, if we needed to, go 3 stories.
Which building? The
Rutherford County
the
Clerk's-
parking garage?
No, the clerk's building, your tags. County clerk's building, Lisa building, that's what I call it. And we've been discussing this, can we do it or can't we do it or whatever. But I would like to see an engineer look at that building and specifically tell me that we can go 3 stories or not. I do know that Commissioner Johnson was here at the time when we built that building, and that was in the plan that we could go 3 stories in the future. The elevator shaft is set for 3 stories right now. But then I'm hearing that we can't go 3 stories based on the weight, you know. So that's the reason I would like an engineer to look at it. Commissioner Johnson.
I know at the time we built that building, and then we toured it and checked off the checklist or punch list and okayed it. We were assured that we put the footing in so we could go up at least 1 more story. Now, whether that was right or not, I don't know, but we were assured that that's what happened, and we paid for it.
Got an input? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Pardon my dress. I'm on staycation this week. But you all were having a meeting, so I needed to be here. The reason this discussion is coming up in the first place is you all are all very well aware of the rapid growth of Rutherford County and the projections of what our population is going to be within just the next 10 years, 20 years. I think they've even put it out to maybe 30 years. So we have to start thinking ahead instead of finding ourselves in a position where we're playing catch up. Well, the Rutherford County Clerk's Office, we're expanding to a 3rd location right now, which is much needed, and we are somewhat behind. However, I'm thankful that we're moving forward and we're going to be able to accomplish this. But with that in mind, I have to consider what is actually still occurring. As that building is being built, more people and more people are moving into Rutherford County, and they're all coming to the county clerk's office for whatever situation they need to take care of, mainly the motor vehicle. But I also take care of other things, such as I'm clerk of the county commission. I do passports, marriage license, a host of things, business license. So probate. I'm also clerk of probate. We're very, very busy. So as I know that we're expanding and it's going to alleviate some of the impact that we currently have at 319 North Maple, I do understand that it's going to be short-lived. So I have talked and discussed about if we could do something that where the Rutherford County Clerk's Office could take the whole bottom floor of 319 and then without having to build another building or find more land and that type of situation. So that's the reason this has came up. And did I explain it well?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to explain why this is here and we're discussing it now. There will be a need, and I'm glad that this is talked about tonight. So thank you for listening to me.
Any input to what we're discussing on the 3rd floor? I was thinking maybe we can get together, make this request to our PBA board, see that we can get a knowledgeable engineer in that field to look at that building and bring us back results of what they found, so we'll know for sure if we can put a 3rd floor on top of that building. Committee doesn't mind, I'll go ahead and mention it and get it on the PBA agenda for their next meeting. November the 3rd, PBA next meeting. I'd like to go ahead and get that started and put on their agenda so we can get an engineer to look at that building. Any discussion? Commissioner Dodd?
Does the PBA, but they don't have a budget. They don't have budget rights or authority. So if they discussed it, would they have to bring it back through us or someone else
I would,
with a range?
anything that the PBA has discussed in the past when it comes to muddies or whatnot, they always brought it back to us, and then we would discuss it, and then we would proceed on to send it through budget and show it to full commission. And that's, if it's any cost or whatever the cost may be, PBA can bring it back to us, and then we can proceed on the same agenda that we used in the past on that.
The only thing I would ask is that if you would consider asking the PBA to consider going back to the original architects and engineers if they're available. Do y'all remember who built it?
I thought about that.
Or the architect, was it Johnson Bailey, or I don't even know if they've changed.
I
They're a
don't think
different.
it was Johnson and Bailey. I think it's one that maybe, yeah. That's what I'm thinking it is. I don't even know if they're in business now or not. That's why we're not gonna leave it up in the hands of PBA to find out,
Okay.
you
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
They got a plaque on the building. Yeah, we got a plaque on the building. I think the ones that did it, like you said, I don't even think they're in business anymore, but we'll double check.
Yeah, that's.
PBA to
I did-
double check.
I think my point, I just want I want it to go to a, one of the larger, the Reagan Smiths, the guys that do the full designs. It's more complicated than the Goldsteins. I think we
yes,
did
a lot
Goldsteins kind of at a local level, or I just want to make sure, it's in good hands with PBA.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to pinpoint it down to just the engineer that designed and built the building, because they may be out of building. I want to leave it general, so PBA can do the homework. Commissioner Johnson?
Would our blueprints and whole design, wouldn't that be on file somewhere, either with us or somewhere in?
I would say it probably is on file somewhere, but we could leave it up to the PBA to dig all that information out and go and let them be the forerunners, and they'll probably get together with Adam and dig it all out and let it go. Any discussion?
There's probably an architect's letter out there somewhere that basically outlines the basic specs, and I mean, that would be where I would look among the first places. You know, whenever you kind of go through one of these, you get an architect's letter and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, did you hear what Commissioner Irvin said? Can you repeat?
I'll be glad to. Usually there's an architect's letter or something along those lines that outlines a lot of the basic parameters of the building, whether it's large residential or a commercial. Usually it'll have all the specs, and it'll have a lot of the basic load information and that kind of stuff in it. I don't know if one was done for this building or not, but that's one of the first places I would look, in addition to tracking down the design specs and everything else, the plans, so to speak. But usually there's an architect's letter, and there's usually an engineer attached to that letter. So
We'll leave it up to the PBA to dig out this information, because how old is that building? Lisa, do you know how old that building? 1998, so you're looking at 24 years of trying to find out about this third floor. That's the reason I want to leave it open, general, for PBA, so they won't have to come back to ask us if you want to do this, want to do that. Just let them do it all. Dig out the history on the building, dig out the engineering staff that they recommend, and come up with maybe a price of what this engineer firm going to charge, and bring it back to us. Any discussion on that?
You need a motion on that, or we'll just do it?
I don't think I do, but I hate to put a motion on it and me talking to PBA, I got to stick with this motion, and something else may come up that we didn't discuss, and I'll put it in the motion. So if I just leave it in like a general discussion, asking them to do it, put on their agenda, and leaving it open as much as I possibly can. Other discussion? Any other business need to come before us tonight? Commissioner Johnson?
Mr. Chairman, don't get me wrong, there's not a problem here, but I wanted to bring this up because it's been brought up to me more than once, twice, 3 times. People keep coming back to me, why are you wanting to sell community care? County. I guess somebody put out the word that I was trying to do that. I assure everyone in this county, I have not said that. It's not my plan, never was. I don't know how it got started, other than several of us have asked the question, why are we spending money over there? And do we need it? Maybe I may have been the one that somebody said, well, maybe we could look at, does someone want to buy it and keep it operating so you don't lose it, but it's out of our hands. We don't have to worry about putting money into it. But that's all it was. It was just people asking questions, and I just want to put it to rest that I am not planning on selling, and to my knowledge, there's no commissioner that has an idea of selling that property out there, the building or property. But I do have some questions that go along with that. And so far, the questions I've asked about community care, the answers I get is the history. Well, I know the history. And I know it started out as a penal farm. Then they built 2 pest houses, which was for, if you don't know what a pest house is, I didn't until I looked it up. People had the diseases back then that we didn't have medicines to cure or whatever, plagues or whatever they wanted to call them. That's where they put the people. It evolved over the years. I forget the doctor's name, but he kind of took it over and was paid to feed the people out there, just feed the people that were living there. So that's, in short, that's the history of it. When I was on the commission before, way back, community care was about to go under. They were having serious problems. So that's how we came into play on that. We took it over, and I can't tell you the details of the contracts or anything, but I know we took it over, and we've been running ever since. But it had changed from a penal farm and the pest houses to our, I'll call it the low income, for better lack of words. People that didn't have money could go out there and stay. Some people would call it, back then, the poor folks' home. There have been many names. But that's what happened. That's how we got into it. And it was needed. And I'm not saying it's not needed today, but my question is, who owns property and the building? Because I've been told in 2 different ways, that we own it, and then I've been told that we own the land, somebody else owns the building. I don't know. I think we need to know, everybody needs to know, and someone sitting here tonight may know. The other thing other than ownership is who operates community care. What kind of contract do we have with the people that operate? Why are we paying for maintenance? Maybe it's in a contract somewhere that no one has seen, that maybe they should be paying it. I don't know. These are just questions. I'm not saying we want to sell it. But I think they're questions that need to be answered. Another question is, at one time, it was old folks' home, so you could go out there if you didn't have the money. That was fine, it was needed. Today, it seems like we have many nursing homes. I don't know if we have enough, but another question is, what do the residents have to pay out there? Is it for people that don't have the money? Because it's pretty much my understanding, and I may be wrong, but it's my understanding that it just basically anyone can get into a nursing home nowadays, and they don't have to pay that extravagant price. So that's the other question. Is it feasible for the county to continue to put money in out there when possibly it could be sold? Maybe not. These are questions. Well, I know people have to pay to go out there, or some do at least. I don't know if everybody does. But the ones that pay, is it comparable to other nursing homes? Another question. But if anyone's here tonight, or anyone watching, or anyone can tell me who to go talk to get these answers and to come back to the people that are asking me, I'd sure appreciate it. Because so far, really all I get is, like I said, the history. Well, I know the history, but like the landfill, that was back in the day. It was a good thing. The landfill was back in the day, and it was a good thing. But it's not today. Not saying community care is not. But it may not be the right thing that we're doing. Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, we had this, we talked about this earlier, but I had asked the county mayor to be here tonight, and he's out sick. Then I asked the county attorney to be here tonight. The question you're asking, I probably could give you a general answer, but I don't want to give you a general answer. I want the specific legal answer presented to this committee. So we're asking the county attorney to look into the bylaws, the ownership, the whole 9 yards of community care, and present it to this committee. But I think tonight was he sick or under the weather, county attorney? I can't remember. But anyway, he's not here. Okay, and we do have a member of the board for community care here with us tonight, but I've been informed that Evan Cope is their attorney, so it may not be a bad idea to invite him to the next meeting too. I wanted to start with the county attorney, what we got on file or whatever. But we can extend it and ask for Evan to come also. And then maybe a lot of the questions can be answered legally, not hearsay or I think, or round it off. And then next week I'm walking down the street and somebody asked me, why did you say that? And be specific. You say 50,000 or 50 million, and we find out it's 49.5 or something. So I think myself that next month we'll have the county attorney, and then we're going to add the community care attorney, Evan Cope, to come before this committee, present their findings, and then each and every one of us can ask questions, of them.
So we maybe add the administrator of community care. May not be the proper wording, but
Right now, community care operations is subbed out to a third party that's running it.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Can they be here to just tell us what they do?
He can reach out to them, but I have no authority to specifically make them show up, what I'm saying here. We'll send them a formal, invitation.
asking. Yes.
But I'm not going to give you an answer that they're going to be here next month. Yeah, we can send out ask them. But I do know that the county attorney have more authority with him and getting him here than this other third party. And then we're going to add Evan Cope. HR director is here, and she has some input to your questions.
So community care is currently being managed by an outside company called United Church Homes. And the reason why is we had lost the administrator. And when that happens, you have to have a licensed administrator that's through the Department of Health through the state of Tennessee. And there's certain criteria that they have to have. And we posted the position several times and we could not get an administrator. So we had to contract with an outside company in order to keep it open as a nursing home. You have to have somebody who is licensed and insured under that. So that's how we ended up with United Church Homes. That happened, I want to say 2, maybe 3 years ago. Again, I can't give you an example, but I can tell you that much. That's why they are there. And there is a gentleman that's there on site. What's his name? Turner? Tanner Faust is on site, and he is the administrator through United Church Homes, and he has a group that he talks to. So, that he works under, and he manages like all the cost of the financial aspects of it. So I don't know if that helps you any at all, but.
Also, Commissioner Johnson, I'm going to ask Commissioner Johnson, on your questions, can we get a copy of the questions so we can maybe pass it on to our county attorney and Evan so they can have some answers to your questions? If anybody else got any questions that you want to present tonight, just give them to her and she can get it to the attorneys. Commissioner Paul Johnson is here tonight. He's a member of the board out there at Community Care. He want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In discussion with Rob Mitchell, property assessor, he assured me that the county owns the property and the building at $5.2 million appraisal, and $531,000 for the land is what they got it assessed at. But they have their own executive board, and they have their own budget committee, and that's where the money comes from to operate from their budget. That's what they're operating. So basically, that's my understanding. Other than the upkeep of the building, that's all the money. That the only thing that the county commission is responsible for, because they've got their own board of directors and everything.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, sir, I understand that. But there again, my question is, why would we keep it if it's not still, I hate to put it that way, but the old folks' home? Because that was the reason we took it over, to take care of our citizens that couldn't afford it. Now, if there's no problem on that end, that pretty much takes away the reason, unless there's other reasons for us to continue to put money into that. Hope everybody understands what I'm saying. We're putting money out and saying, well, they run it and they don't cost us any more than this money we're talking about tonight. That's a lot of money. We have schools to build and all, and everybody's saying look at other ways to find money. Well, that's what most of us up here are doing, is trying to find other monies, and this may not be one. It may be a great thing. I know it's a great thing anyway, but is it our burden, or should it be financially?
Well, I still think that if we get the right players up here, the county attorney, now we're gonna include community care attorney that we want guessing or whatnot. I like to start out the discussion with specific information, and they will be able to present the specific information to us, and then we can have a discussion from that. So next month, we'll put it on the agenda, and hopefully they'll be here. But I can't promise you that this third party that is operating it is going to be here. We'll send out the invitation to them. Okay? Any other discussion on, any other discussion for the committee tonight? Not, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. So, why I got to sign my name? Might be buying the nurse.